Good day, everyone. First of all, it's a pleasure to be here, and thanks, Google, for asking us to speak. Last year, a small agency in Australia became the #1 creative agency in the world at Cannes, D&AD, and the Big One report. And if I was stupid enough to stand here and tell you I have the answer or the crystal ball or a silver bullet to what the agency of the future is going to look like, you'd know I'm lying. I guess I got a point of view of how to be creative, how to evolve, and how to try and stay at the top of your game. And I'll share that with you guys today. But it's more of a conversation versus the answer. No, I need that. Hold on, guys. I'm going to need the screen. Yeah, sorry. So let's start with this. Am I assuming most of the room are genuinely interested in creativity? Yeah? Yeah? Thank fuck. Okay. Now, if any of the words on here fill too much of your day part, and the fact that this is happening at an increasing pace, you know all of this. I'm not going to tell you anything that you don't already know. But I guess if you look back to last year, and this is a small selection of the best work in the world, and in about 5 days' time, we can put new images up for the best work in the world for this year, there's something wonderful about it. Great work, great ideas are the currency we work in. It's the only thing that really matters at the end of the day after everything else you're looking at. Doesn't matter how much you invest in technology, how many smart people you have, what else you're doing. If you aren't passionately believing in creativity, there is nothing else. It's the last bit that people are interested in. Now, there's a guy called Bren Priestley, and I'm borrowing a quote that he published in Campaign this week. I don't know him, but he's the departing chief creative and founding partner of Adam and Eve, a good agency and one I've always admired. Some clients will always want other things, efficiencies, a spreadsheet, an organizational chart. We've proved that creativity, applied in the correct way, with a consistent tone of voice, is a runaway train, an economic success for us and our clients. To say there's a trend away from this is absolute nonsense, because creativity has become a dirty word for, unfortunately, in some of the industry. So I'm going to break down in a couple of slides to use what we're framing to evolve our agency, and a couple of cultural principles and how we evaluate our own work. The first one is this diagram. I was asked to put about 40 slides together for a regional BBDO/Omnicom board last year on where the industry's going. So I wrote one slide, and it was this, and you kind of winged it a little bit. On one axis, it's in it to win it, and on the bottom, it's in it not to lose. If the Americans in the room, they'll understand the sporting analogy. Left brain thinking on one side, right brain thinking on one side. And I kind of went, okay, well, if we applied that to every agency person, every client, everyone in the industry, if we tried to split it up percentage-wise, where would those numbers land? And my rough guesstimation is this. 20% top left-hand corner, 10% right, 40-30. Now, I think it's pretty clear you don't really want to be working with the bottom half of that list. So when we were framing our staff, framing our current clients, framing our new business strategy, framing where we want to work, we're a creative agency that felt very comfortable up here, starting to get nervous up here. But I'm interested in clients that are in it to win it, that want to push things, want to do fantastic work. And even if you're left brain, very analytical, commercial in the way you look at marketing, you've got to realize there's a value and a price to creativity. So it's building a model that could spread that top spectrum and slowly evolve out of the bottom. Last year at Cannes, the best presentation I went to was a smaller one in one of the little rooms, and an amazing artist from America with a young, cheeky 26-year-old or something, punk from MIT, talking about how they frame creativity. And I'm borrowing their IP here, but it was useful to me in my agency evaluation. And that modern creativity sits in the crosshairs of art, science, engineering, and design. And to think that we're having a creativity versus science battle is absolutely ridiculous. Creativity sits in the heart of everything, and the best work in the world, the most stunning work in the world, the most effective work in the world cannot be successful unless you are using all four of these disciplines. Now, I've shared that with about 40, 50 CEOs, CMOs, chief creative officers over the last 3, 4, 5 months. And every time you look at it, someone sees something that makes them excited about where the future of creativity is. The most technically brilliant UX designer will find their role in modern creativity. Then you sort of overlap that with whatever's relevant to you and how we're building our model. And I'm not going to go into detail about this today, but it's my framework based on having clients that are in it to win it and building into the left-hand side of that earlier equation. Now, there's 4 pieces of work I've been involved with in the last few years. There's a titanium, 3 or 4 Grand Prix, 70 lions on that page. If I go back, there isn't one of those ideas that would have existed if it didn't have fundamentally brilliant design thinking, that didn't have stunning engineering in the execution, the manufacture, and the delivery, and even the mechanics of that idea. The science, the rigor, the I know instead of I think to back that creativity up, because none of those 4 ideas would have seen the light of day. So I guess here's some principles we're using at Clevenger BBDO. We feel very lucky to have been #1 agency last year. We see ourselves in the business of ideas that create value. Our simple purpose is creating ideas of value, societal value, commercial value. If an idea, we can't say, pushes society forward and won't be commercial, then we don't present it. Through a culture of curiosity and possibility, because we all know you've got to be scared of fucking up, and most of the best work is going, well, at least half of the best work is going to nearly fuck up at some point. You're going to hit a roadblock. And we solve big problems in unconventional creative ways. But it's the era of creative thinking, not creative communication. And everything is now creative, no matter what 4 parts of that axis you're in. 3 principles for the work. Interactivity in everything we do. If there isn't a behavior we're changing, Airbnb, putting a ring on someone, Hungarythm, downloading an app so you can walk out of a 7-Eleven with a Snickers, or Graham interacting with what a human body could look like if it needed to survive a car crash in the future. There has to be an interactive behavior. 2, amplification and design. Hegarty said something a few years back. Everything was 80% idea, 80% execution. I think it's now 80% idea, 80% execution, and 80% amplification. That amplification strategy has to be in the design of the idea, not at the back end of the idea. And seeing a concept get through all the roadblocks and politics, as long as that's thought up front, is an amazing difference. And the last piece, great creativity is also a value exchange. And if we don't use the best ideas in the world to be able to get that data, to be able to get people's information and building and feeding an ecosystem, then there's a commercial opportunity fundamentally lost to our clients. And it's amazing how quicker an idea gets through red tape up to CEO level when you've got a commercial impact of your creative idea and hoping that there's a business model moving forward. Last thing, people. If you want to change an agency and you want to do the best work in the world, you've got to have an amazing culture and everyone's going to be swimming in the same direction. I don't think it's more complicated than this. This is the 3 simple things we ask ourselves with every person we hire and how we look at our own staff at the end of the year. And if people don't tick all 3 boxes, then they either don't get hired or they don't stay. You've got to love ideas. And it doesn't matter what department, but love ideas. You've got to be curious and excited about the future, because if you're looking back, and let's face it, too many of our industry are, both agency and client side, there is no role for you in the future. And 3, decent people. So look, as I said, there's no science behind all that, but that's a little window into one agency that's trying to push the boat out creatively. Thank you. Is that all right?
Awesome. Yeah. Thank you, Nick. Hi, guys. My name is Ross Johnsey, and I'm the head of Create with Google in APAC. And we're going to just continue, I guess, this discussion around the agency model of the future by kind of turning it into a bit of a panel. So we're joined, obviously, by Nick, but also by Janine Falcone, who's the marketing lead for North America for Accenture Interactive, and Shannon Pruitt, who's the chief content officer for Kara. Welcome. Welcome, everybody. I guess for you guys who just joined on the panel, do you agree with sort of that definition of creativity that Nick's just put forward there? And where do I guess you see the role of your organizations playing in that sort of creative space?
I'll go first. Okay. I agree with it, but I would actually enhance that, because I believe that creativity starts with a true understanding of people. Something is only creates value for you if you interpret it and perceive it to create value for yourself. And as we think about audiences and really understanding people and what they care about and how they behave, and as part of Kara, we have our own data platforms and called M1 because we own Merkle, which is the biggest PII database in the world. but really thinking about how do we better understand those people to then have ideas that will do the things that we need them to do to create the business outcomes for our clients. And so our role in that is really creating a personalized and relevant piece of creativity, right, in every point of interaction in which somebody will interact with our brilliant media strategies and plans.
Great. Hi, everyone. Yeah, for me, I totally agree as well on creative and what that means. But I'd add a little bit more in that it is really all about experience. And when at Accenture Interactive, we're all about that, driving and creating kind of the best customer experiences that we can for our prospects and customers. So what that means is you do have to look at it from all those angles. Some of us come at it from different places. Some have been born in technology. Some have been born in sort of operations and execution. But by adding more and more creativity to that and bringing those worlds together, it creates some really, really powerful stuff. Clients and those in the market know this. You come to us often with big business problems, not just about what's the next creative idea and what's the campaign I can put out, but how am I actually going to change my business model? So you ask the question maybe in one way and want help with one thing, but that creativity has to come very soon after that, because without the two things together, you're only going to look at it in not that bottom quadrant, but you'll look at it in one way on the technology side, not so much how can I creatively connect this customer to my brand and drive the best experience, because it really is, it's a two-way street at this point.
I just think I'll build on that because maybe a point was missed. I think creative agencies have to have the humility to understand that ideas and great creative thinking is coming from everyone. That wasn't designed on a creative agency. That was the industry. And I'm including clients in that. And more of our creative energy needs to get redispersed away from communications into products, services, and experiences. I think it's a no-brainer. But it's a tough thing for creative agencies to let go of some of that and share that creative thinking time.
Yeah, great. I want to change tack a little bit. I know that technology is really, obviously for the past several years, has really started to change the things that have been winning awards here. So we're seeing new product design being awarded, new tech platforms are being awarded. How are you changing who within the agencies you are hiring to kind of go after these kind of ideas and projects? Is it more specialists that go real deep in certain areas, or is it better to have a generalist sort of approach where you kind of have a better understanding of the whole tech platform industry?
Look, I mean, if you go back to that crosshairs of design and engineering, we've gone from an agency of 200 to about 300 in the last 18 months. I don't think we've hired a classic agency person. Nearly everyone is in the experience design space. Great technology almost has to be hidden. It's the catalyst for a great idea. But yeah, it's fundamentally different. The type of people we're hiring to either, one, do the design behind the concept, and two, the amplification of it. It's dramatic.
Yeah, I would add to that. You hire both, right? You hire people that are very skilled in whatever you need them to do, whether it's technology or different kinds of experience design and those kinds of things. But what might have gotten lost as the pendulum kind of swings back and forth is you also need sort of generalists that also understand the whole spectrum, and that has changed tremendously. So finding the talent that understands generally how to pull all those things together is challenging. To be able to find that and hire them and kind of keep them engaged, it's something that we're excited about, and blending those generalists with the specialists is always interesting. It's fun.
I would say, we're fortunate to be part of a holding company called Density Just Network, where we have a lot of agencies that have very specific skill sets that they can bring to the table. But we're also a media agency, so we're also very fortunate that we get to meet with a lot of partners that do these things, right? So we go very deep in the specialized skills that we have within our agency, within Kara, but then we are very good at having global thinking around how do we include our partners from Isobar for innovation, and how do we think about earned media through Mitchell or experiential with MKTG. So I would just, I think as we look to build, programs or plans or solve business problems, we're looking at things holistically, and then we're able to sort of extract those expertise to deliver the custom solution we need to deliver for each client.
Right. So if that covers off the sort of roles that you're currently hiring for, what about the experts that have been in your organizations for a long time? What about these more senior stakeholders? Do you find it's easy for senior stakeholders to stay up to speed with the speed of technology and how it's actually moving? And is there a sort of risk of them losing a bit of their mojo when they don't maybe have as much a grip on these things as some of the people coming through and that you're hiring?
Yeah, I could take that if you want. It's funny that question. Our clients ask us that a lot too, because they struggle with the same things. How am I going to stay up on all of these technologies? There's this kind of chaos in a good way in the market around different technologies that are evolving, and people are questioning that. And then there's, as I mentioned earlier, chaos in the business world about I may have people that really haven't evolved, and I have different skill sets that do I need. What do I do with these other folks that I've had for quite some time? So we see that in the industry. At Accenture Interactive, yes, of course, there's always, you have to stay up on things, and there's many ways that we all know to do that, but it's also staying close to your clients and staying close to the market and having cross-industry expertise either in the industry itself, and then again hiring those specialists that just excel in the various disciplines that we need them to. So sure, everyone, I think if you don't worry about that, that's a bad thing. You should. Everyone should always make sure they stay on top of everything that's going on out there, which is why we're all here, right?
I think the good news about our industry, especially, executive leadership in our organization, is that everyone's sort of insatiably curious, right? And I think that's why we all get a lot of value from what we do, is because we have the opportunity to learn all of these things. But I think, at some point also, executive leaderships need to lead organizations, right? And so expecting them to be sort of experts at everything, like I always say, you need to know enough to be dangerous about everything, but you don't need to be able to, solve the world's problems in a single vertical, right? So I think, there is an expectation that you understand, right? But you may not be the right person to solve that right problem at that time, and you would call an expert for that. You don't, if you have a leak, you don't call a lawyer, you call a plumber, right? So, but you need a general contractor to help you understand that your house is basically having a flood underneath, like mine is right now.
Sorry to hear that.
Oh, it's fine. I'm in Cannes.
I don't know. I think I'll be a bit more tougher than that. I don't think everyone is curious, and I don't think everyone necessarily at Cannes is curious. They should be. They're in the best place in the world to learn from. I think our industry's reasonably constipated, and not many people are genuinely looking forward. You look, the best creative people, the best strategy people, the best whatever, they're always excited about what's moving forward. There are lots and lots and lots of people that are going to really struggle for the next 5 years, and if they aren't fundamentally going to jump in head first, they're fucked. They're not going to have a job. They're not going to push the work forward. And there's a lot of people that are hiding behind technology, data, and information that aren't absolutely fundamentally pushing the work, and I don't mean advertising work, but great ideas forward. And sorry, there's a lot of people that need to rethink, because it's tough times ahead unless you're brilliant and curious.
All right. Interesting difference of opinion across the panel there. I hope you're enjoying it out there as much as I am. Shaden, this one's for you specifically, I guess, to kick off, but I know that you're pretty passionate about the integration of data and storytelling, and you spoke a little bit about the ability to kind of make sure the audiences, the right spaces are put together, I guess. But how do you feel that data affects the actual creative or the storytelling piece itself? Is that something that should be adapted for all those spaces, or is it more about a story that can just live everywhere?
Yeah, I think it kind of goes back to my original statement about really understanding people, right? And so creativity and value is created within those spaces, right? But I'm a big believer in you need to have an approach, you need to have a strategy, you need to have a rightful and credible story to tell through the lens of your audience. And then you create for those spaces. And sometimes you might be creating originally, sometimes you might be borrowing other credibility from other voices, publishers, talent, et cetera. And sometimes you just might be thinking differently about how you curate your own assets, right? And how you curate that entire experience. So, but I think understanding people and what they care about and their needs, it's like going to a dinner party. If I sat at a dinner party next to you and I only talked about myself all night, and I just kept hitting you over the head with the same message, and I never asked you any questions or understood any information, the next time you saw me, you'd be like, I never want to see her again. But if we have a nice conversation, and then our next interaction, hey, you said you like to cook. I saw this recipe. I thought of you. You're like, oh, that's cool. Like, she kind of understood what we're talking. And then we see each other again, right? But that is the nature of a relationship with a brand, between people. We have to remember we're all people. And not, behind us is a data point, but we are still people. So
Do you think a big idea can supersede that? An idea that like breaks through, I guess?
100%. There are world problems and things that need to be solved, right? Brilliant creative ideas that can manifest into all of us, right? And we can all be touched by them or mobilized by them. But I think in terms of the job that we have to do in heavy lifting around helping brands better connect with people today in a world where technology and everything is basically evolving so that it's harder and harder to do that, you have to remember that these are people and you need to understand them and how they behave, because also what they say to you isn't actually all the time what they do. Right? The data points actually can point you in the right direction to be like, you say you read a book 3 times a week, but we know you're watching Netflix. Right?
Janine, you Accenture, I guess, from certainly in Australia where I live and work, has bought some of the best creative shops and kind of integrated them into Accenture, and I've known that to be true in some of the other markets as well. How is this sort of onboarding of these creative agencies into the fold for you guys? How is it changing what you deliver for your clients?
Yeah, well, it's been great. It's great fun. So I focus on the North America market myself, but yes, we have been doing that globally. And I can tell you that the reason we, over time, our clients and the market have been, it's a need that we've had to fill. Because again, you're at the table, yes, Accenture is known to be traditional consulting, technology, operations, whatever people knew us as years ago. But over time, when you're trying and your goal is to deliver the best experiences on the planet, creativity is absolutely needed. And again, when there's chaos in the market around the business and the way business is running, when technology is evolving, yeah, we check those boxes, check that box. What we needed more of was the ability to think about the customer first, right? And admittedly, when you go out and you're acquiring the agencies we are acquiring, it's because agencies brilliantly think about customer first. When they sit with a client, it's how am I going to deliver experience for this customer? How am I going to have this breakthrough creative idea? Some of the agencies are a little more executional, which is great. That helps us with kind of the campaign aspect of things. And so it's been great. And it's very interesting when you have this culture of cultures. We acquire the agencies. We maintain a lot of their cultures. We integrate them into Accenture Interactive so that we can deliver for our clients. One of the things we absolutely keep is kind of that studio model. So we co-create with clients in our studios. We can go back on site with them, and it's been very powerful. And the demand is there, and the market's been good, and it's an exciting time.
And Nick, final question for you. I think before I'll have one for the whole panel to finish, but I know that we've chatted before around the role of creative partners and how they're kind of being leveraged by their brands and client partners right now. And I think you are of the opinion that there's a missed opportunity. There's more that can be done with that relationship. Do you want to just touch on that briefly, I guess?
Yeah, I think it goes back to a question you asked earlier, and it was around collaboration or words to that effect. None of us can do everything on our own, and I think we all know that. But you've got to have a level of trust and confidence in those partners. Clemenger BBDO doesn't have a collaborative process with Google. I have a collaborative process with you and your team and 4 or 5 other people in your company. You've learned the trust of our whole creative department, so we let you in and you get access to our ideas further upstream. I don't think companies and departments collaborate. I think people do. And I think what some businesses have worked out is if you show you're passionate about ideas, you're pushing the really interesting things, then any decent creative agency in the world is going to let you in and give you access to everything. Because I just think it comes back to, can you make the work better? And if anyone makes the work better, you're our best friend.
Great. So we're going to wrap up. We've got 2 minutes, I've just been told. But a quick fire, just to finish from all 3 of you guys. What kind of keeps you up at night about the industry to finish? And then I guess, what are you most excited about in the future of our industry? I don't know who wants to go first. It's a big question, but...
Why me?
Well done.
Okay, what keeps me up at night? I think what keeps me up at night is that the traditional way that we have always done things is broken. And just the notion of like reach and frequency sort of being the mechanism for delivering relevance for brands, and still having that sort of be the foundational element in which we operate many of our businesses and the system that we're built on, that keeps me up at night because it's broken. all of our behavior would indicate that it's broken, right? How many of you watch television or watch, my son said to me the other day, he was watching a show, and I said, "What are you watching?" And he's like, "It's called Troll Hunters." And I was like, "Oh, okay." And I said, "Is it a TV show?" He's like, "Mom, it's a series." And I was like, "Oh, right. Like, he doesn't care. He's screen, agnostic. It doesn't matter, right?" And so the way that keeps, I'm like, I'm in the business of finding ways to get to you, not you, because you're 8 and that's illegal. But it's really something to think about. But what I'm most excited about is that it's forcing the notion of creativity, right? Like, how do we be more clever and create better pieces of work and better opportunities and better strategies to reach and connect with people? And it's making us be better. It's making us think about, what can I do to earn your attention? As opposed to, like, let me tell you the same story about me over and over again.
Great. I would just add to that, kind of the pace of change. It's a really exciting time to be in marketing and creative. It's super exciting. And we have so much change. And as we hire people, acquire agencies, it's just this crazy time where, quite honestly, and I think Nick sort of said this, not everyone is going to make it. And you can sort of tell, like, everyone, you just have to make sure that you remain kind of flexible and open to change. And different cultures are sometimes, like, hard to put together, but it's exciting, it's very energizing, and just the pace of that change is faster than I've ever seen it.
Nick, quick finish.
Yeah, look, 2 things that keep me up at night. First one is navigating my agency and my staff away from people that aren't excited about doing great work, and it's freaking hard. And 2, probably one of the great creative partners I ever had said, look, it's not worth it unless you've got 3 things in front of you all the time that you're really, really excited and passionate about. So I'm always freaking out if I don't have that 3rd or the 4th thing in my horizon, the great idea. Luckily, at the moment, I do, and got an amazing idea which might trump everything I showed today. So I'm pretty fucking excited.
I think we'll hear more about it on Thursday. Thank you very much, guys, for coming to today's panel. Thank you.